Good evening. Today is Sunday, and it's February the 6th of 2022. I hope everybody has had a good day. An important athletic contest took place this week. It was actually played on Thursday night, but I watched it yesterday on Saturday. And it's the only football game I ever watch. I'm not a sports fan. And I've been asked over the years that if you're not a sports fan, why do you make an exception and watch one game? The East-West Shrine game is a very important event. It's football's finest hour. It's raises money for the world's greatest philanthropy, the Shriners Hospitals for Children. I've been a Shriner for nearly 50 years. And I have a passion for the Shriners Hospitals and for the Shrine game. I have here a book called Football's Finest Hour, the Shrine East-West game by Maxwell Stiles. This was published in 1950, which was the year before I was born. And obviously there's been a lot of development since then. But this author did a good job in putting this together and giving us the history of such an important event, such a wonderful organization, and a wonderful charity. It says the Shriners Hospitals provide a God-given opportunity and privilege to serve in a truly humanitarian way. These are the words of W. Freeland Kendrick, a past imperial potentate, and he was the chairman of the hospital board, member of Lulu Shrine Temple in Philadelphia. He's been dead for a long time. What was then called the Ancient Arabic Order Nobles of the Mystic Shrine was established on September 16, 1872. With the first temple was Mecca Temple in New York City. It's interesting, September 26, 1872, it was 101 years, actually 101 years and 3 days later, that I was initiated into the Mystic Shrine at Karam Shrine Temple in Waco, September 29th, 1973. And the opening kickoff for the first Shrine game was December 26, 1925. For several years prior to this time, there had been an annual baseball game between the nobles of Islam Temple in San Francisco and the local Elks Lodge. And this was more or less a forerunner from the Shrine game. It was early November 1925. The meeting and dinner was held at the St. Germain restaurant in San Francisco. This was marked by cigar smoke and vote for the creation of the Shrine game. And the following month, December 26, 1925, was the opening kickoff of the first Shrine game held in San Francisco. It's an all-star game involving some of the best college players there are, and many of them go on to careers in the NFL. And so that a journalist named Bob Considine wrote in the New York Mirror in 1946. He described the Shrine game as sports raised to its finest pinnacle. A man named Harold Brick Mueller of the University of California, this is picture right here. He made the first touchdown ever in a Shrine game. Brick Mueller, all-time All-American end, became Harold Mueller, Doctor of Medicine. So, has an interesting history, a lot of pictures in this book of different years the game took place. In 1935, among the players on the East team, by the way, at that time, members of the East team would all meet in Chicago and travel to California by train. And one of the players for the East team was from the University of Michigan Wolverines. His name was Gerald Ford. And nearly 40 years later, he would become president of the United States. He was also a Mason and Shriner, and he was the last Shriner to serve in the White House. And interesting story, December 24th, 1948 was a hospital pilgrimage. It's been a tradition that prior to the game, they have practices, they have a bunch of activities week leading up to the game. And a must on the itinerary, a major part of it, is when the players visit the local Shriners hospitals for children and actually interact with the patients. And there was a player, 1948, his name was Johnny Lujak. And he ended up having tea with a little girl named Darlene. He came to her bedside. Johnny, said the little girl, tears in her eyes, you're supposed to have tea with me. Her thin legs were shackled in braces, but she was able to take his hand and lead him slowly into a tiny table laid with clean cloth doll cups and saucers. So sorry to be late, he said. That's all right now. And potent stuff, that cambric tea poured into the doll cup by a little cripple girl who had been waiting for her Johnny. Oh, that had to be awesome. Again, the motto of the game is strong legs run, that weak legs might walk. And that it was in 1949 that a man named Gene Dericotti from the University of Michigan became the first African American to play in a Shrine game. From the very beginning, patients were treated as Shriners hospitals, regardless of their race, ethnicity, religion, or whatever. And from the very beginning till now, not one penny the out-of-pocket expenses has any family paid for services. 2009, because of increasing cost of operations, they began accepting insurance payments, which is fair enough. And it's more than just a game. December 31st, 1949, the Shrine game was followed by a dinner and dance at San Francisco's Palace Hotel. I bet that was a lot of fun. So, here is a picture of the original Board of Trustees. Elected June 15th, 1921. And to organize the Shriners Hospitals. Pictures, a number of the hospitals. It is just a wonderful cause. I said a while ago about they've had no discrimination according to race as far as patients from the very beginning. Since 1949, African American players have been participating in the Shrine game. How about membership in the Shrine itself? Well, that's a different matter. From as I say, the Ancient Arabic Order Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, now known as Shrine International, was founded in 1872. If you've watched any of my other videos, I've devoted considerable attention to the Prince Hall Shriners, the Ancient Egyptian Arabic Order Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, founded in 1893. 1894, the white imperial potentate learned that black Shriners existed. Then 20 years later, they filed a lawsuit in Atlanta, Georgia, trying to stop them from existing. It took place in several states. Then in June 3rd, 1929, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that black men had the right to wear the fez, called themselves nobles of the Mystic Shrine. Today, the two imperial councils have a very good relationship. And Shrine International, like the various formerly discriminatory organizations, now has African American members. I don't think Shrine International ever had in its bylaws any discriminatory policies. I know the same thing is true of the Scottish Rite, the Southern Jurisdiction. Unfortunately, some of the Grand Lodges from which they drew members did at one time have racial bylaws. None of them have them anymore. And prior to 2000, one had to be either a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason or a Knights Templar of the York Rite in order to be a Shriner. That's not the case anymore. Any Master Mason now may apply for membership in the Shrine. But the movement toward recognition of Prince Hall Masonry has continued. Began in Connecticut in 1989, mutual recognition, and there's been a domino effect ever since. And we're down to the point now there's only 5 Grand Lodges, all in the South, that haven't recognized Prince Hall. I pray that I live to see all that change. But anyway, back to the game. Football's finest hour. The This game it was first played in the San Francisco Bay Area, usually at San Francisco's Kazar Stadium or at Stanford Stadium of Stanford University, with Pacific Bell Park, now known as the Oracle Park, as a host in its final years in Northern California. For more than half of the games played in the Bay Area, entertainment was provided by the marching band from Santa Cruz High School. In January 1942, the game was played in New Orleans due to the December 7th, 1941 Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. This was only a one-year relocation, but it was based on fears that playing the game on the West Coast could make the contest in the stadium a potential target for an additional attack. The game, originally planned for January 1st in San Francisco, was played on January 3rd at Tulane Stadium. And they've been only a few years have they had to miss certain of these games. The game of January 1st, 1935, in which was held in San Francisco, is when future President Gerald Ford played for the East. But he was a great football player, but not good enough on that occasion. West won 19-13. And I watched the game for the first time. I'd heard of it before, but I'd not actually seen it. On January 10th, 1981, held in Stanford, California. 21-3 was the score. East won that one. And I remember it was on a Saturday. I was living in Kaufman, Texas, and pastoring Macedonia AME Church. I went to visit some members and got in a conversation with Brother Robert Smith, very fine fellow, good friend of mine. Brother Smith was a member of Mount Airy Baptist Church in Kaufman, but he regularly visited Macedonia AME, where I was pastor, and I was told he was considering moving his membership. And our church ended up holding his funeral in 1985. Sadly, he died before he got around to doing that. But I can remember Brother Smith, his nieces and nephews called him Uncle Bubba. He was a Prince Hall Mason, member of Egypt Lodge number 454 in Kaufman County. And he was not a Shriner. But on that occasion, Brother Smith and I sat both smoking our pipes and watching the game. The host, MC, was President Gerald Ford, and who was also a pipe smoker and a 33rd degree Mason, a member of Saladin Temple in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I've watched it ever since then, not every year, but quite as often as I can. And our mission, more than just a game. Since 1925, the East-West Shrine Bowl has benefited Shriners' children's. Its missions to provide advanced care for children with orthopedic conditions, burns, spinal cord injuries, cleft lip and palate, regardless of family's ability to pay for services. Here's some pictures. And here's the logo. See a picture of a football player holding hands with a little crippled girl. Well, there's a meaning behind that. It was back in 1974. A 2-year-old patient named Nicole was receiving care at the Shriners Hospitals for Children in San Francisco. She was born with Holt-Oram syndrome, a genetic condition that affects bones in the arms and hands. Her thumbs had not fully developed. And one of the players, a man named Mike Esposito, noticed Nicole because she appeared scared and was crying. Esposito took her hand to calm her down. They walked down the hallway together. A photographer from a local newspaper noticed the scene and snapped a photo of these two new friends. The image perfectly depicts our mission, became the inspiration for the official logo of the East-West Shrine Bowl. And today, Nicole has 3 children of her own, and she works professionally with children with disabilities. Her son, Colin, was born with Holt-Oram syndrome and received treatment, guess where? Shriners Hospitals. And that is not unusual. There's quite a few cases of second generation of someone who's treated at the hospital. Later, they marry and have children, and their children come years later with the same genetic congenital condition that the parents had experienced, and all get good service. She recalls with mixed emotions about her son's condition. A part of me was obviously concerned, but another part felt secure because I knew this was the best place for him to be treated. I was surprised that most of the staff were still there and remembered who I was. I think that's what separates Shriners children from everybody else. Instead of treating you as a patient, they treat you as part of the family. That's just precious. Here's a grown-up Nicole. And in 2015, my wife Deborah and I had the pleasure of traveling to Florida. It's the game has been in various cities, as I say. It started out in California. It was in New Orleans once, but it has moved around over the years. And in 2006, the game moved to Texas, leaving the San Francisco Bay Area for the first time since 1942. It was played at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. I currently live in Corsicana, where I'm pastor of Bethel AME Church. Deborah's sister, Syl K. Jesse, has lived here now for over 40 years, and her husband, Cedric, is a native of Corsicana. We have a family tradition now of getting together to watch the Shrine Bowl. And in 2006, there was a young man from Corsicana playing in the game. And Cedric went down to San Antonio for the game. He wasn't sure what game it was. But when he got there and saw those sea of fizzes, wow, that's Bob's game. And he said he saw some handicapped children in the hallway, and you're always going to find them at such an event. The growth of the cable television meant NFL scouts could now view players around the country, making postseason all-star games less important. Even so, the game's organizers relaxed efforts toward attracting top players to the game, meaning many of the college football's best players went to the Senior Bowl instead. In 2007, their game relocated to Houston. It was played in Reliant Stadium, home of NFL's Houston Texans, to be closer to one of the 22 hospitals for children. Texas has Shriners Hospital in Houston and a burn center in Galveston. The 2008 and 2009 games were held at Robertson Stadium on the campus of the University of Houston. Then in 2010, it moved to Florida. It was held at the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. And after 2 years in Orlando, the 2012 game was held at Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg. And they continue to hold it there until 2020. It was in 2015 that Deborah and I flew to Tampa and caught a shuttle to St. Petersburg. And we were able to go to the game in person. While there, we visited the Shriners Hospital in Tampa, and we went on to the game at Tropicana Field, but also to the banquet held there the previous night. That was a wonderful trip. I don't know when it'll be, but I certainly would like to go to another Shrine game in person. Because of the coronavirus, the 2021 game was canceled, but it was held in Las Vegas on February the 3rd, 2022. That was Thursday night. It's on YouTube, so we watched it yesterday. My sister-in-law always prepares her famous and delicious sausage dip. And I usually drink tea with honey and vinegar. Really tangy. It hit the spot. Some of we all look forward to. The ladies sit in the kitchen and visit. My brother-in-law and I watch the game and talk. One time, another sister-in-law, Celia from Cedar Hill, joined us. He was not able to come this time, and I have another brother-in-law in Houston that has expressed some interest in it. And I said, well, next year I'll let you know in advance. The more, the merrier. And some people do still have a problem with this. I don't watch the Super Bowl, have no interest in it. I don't watch the Dallas Cowboys. I've lived in Texas all my life. I've never seen one of their games. One football game a year is all I need. That's my number one charity is the Shriners Hospitals for Children. I make financial contributions to them several times a year. It was wonderful to visit there. Not only they provide top quality patient care, but they're also quite active with medical research and medical education. Interestingly enough, the shrine was founded by two men, one of whom was a physician. Dr. Walter Fleming practiced medicine first in Rochester, New York, later in New York City. And a popular actor by the name of Billy Florence was. It's possible that Florence was a patient of Dr. Fleming. They were both Masons. And Billy Florence had been to Marseille, France, and reportedly attended a play in which, at the end of the play, there was initiation into a secret society. And the play and the secret order had a lot of Arabian motifs there. It was Dr. Fleming who ended up writing the ritual for the shrine. There were, during this period, after the Civil War, there was a lot of craze going around New York about the number 13. And a place called Knickerbocker Cottage, 13 men would meet every day for lunch. There had to be 13. There couldn't be 12. There couldn't be 14. They would sit down at promptly 12:13 every day. And out of this nucleus of Masons came the ancient Arabic order Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. So it was a physician who started it. And it was in 1920 in Portland, Oregon, that the Shriner from Atlanta, Georgia, member of Yarab Temple there, Forrest Adair, was in his hotel room trying to sleep. Down below was a Shriner playing a baritone horn. I'm forever blowing bubbles. He was obviously quite inebriated. Next day, Adair got up and gave his famous bubble speech. He said, for 50 years, all we've been doing is blowing bubbles. We need to do something for the good of humanity. That's how the idea of the Shriners Hospitals developed. First one opened in Shreveport, I believe, in 1921. And then, December 26, 1925, a major fundraiser of the East West Shrine Bowl began and continues to this very day. Strong legs run that weak legs might walk. And many players have testified about the awesome experience they had of going to the Shriners Hospitals, forming relationships with these children who have all kinds of orthopedic and neurological conditions. Their parents can't afford expensive medical treatment, but they're able to get that treatment they need at the Shriners Hospitals. It's more than just a game. It's football's finest hour. Supports the world's greatest philanthropy. So if you've never supported it before, I hope you'll consider supporting it now. God bless the East West Shrine Game. God bless the Shriners Hospitals for Children. God bless you. Have a great week ahead.